Hi Aquarius, thank you for joining me over here. I just had to have a quick mouthful of water because it's very, very dry after all that talking. When I started September's round of readings, which was a little while now, and apologies again for making you wait. Thank you for waiting for me. I really appreciate it. I think it was maybe, I can't remember if it was right at the beginning or maybe it was only a sign or something in. And in the meditation that I do before any reading that I ever do, whether it's for YouTube or whether it's for personal reading or something like that, I had a very, very clear message come through. Oh, it was for Libra, right? It was before the Libra reading, so your sister air sign. And the message was simply this: August is the month that changed everything. And I was like, okay. And then I thought, it's Libra, it's South Node. Right. Yes, it's a message for Libra, but there's a collective applicability for this right across the zodiac, because the South Node is currently in the sign of Libra. And I've mentioned this with some signs, and I haven't mentioned it with others, and I don't know why, other than perhaps really I forgot. But I do think in retrospect, perhaps a few months down the line, we're going to look back at August truly as being the month that changed all the things. September then, for most of the signs, being a continuation of what was initiated there, or what was become aware of there. That's probably the best way of putting it. And how everything changed as a result of that energy. Now, if you were to ask me what happened in August, God's honest truth, would have to say I have no idea. I can't remember. My birthday was in there somewhere. My son's birthday was in there somewhere. My stepson's birthday was in there somewhere as well. But I can't tell you what I was thinking. I can't tell you what I was doing. No recollection whatsoever. And yet, I feel very strongly like something has changed. Really, in the last 3-4 days, I'm really peaking today. Like, I feel like a different person. And that same energy is what I'm feeling for you by the end of the month. It's like it's a dramatic change, even though nothing changes, because it's up here. It's all the stuff up here that's making the change. Now, I said right at the beginning that if you were an Aquarius ascendant watching this, that Pluto would be shifting back into your 12th house, which would be pretty uncomfortable, and I'm sure that it would be pretty uncomfortable. But he's not there to stir up a hornet's nest and then leave again. Like I said, it feels to me like it's the condensing, the coalescing of all of the lessons that have occurred for you since 2008, giving a chance to be applied moving forwards. Now, the 12th house, for those of you who are unaware, is known as the house of the self-undoing. It's the house of the deep unconscious. It's the house of karma. It's the house of prison and incarceration and very, very difficult things. Sometimes our past life stuff can show up there. It's the part of you that is so very you, and yet so deeply unseen as to be unseen by you. You know, the thing about like mental hospitals and things like that, which are often, nods to that, found in the 12th house, nods towards a certain propensity for escapism through substance abuse and whatnot. You can see that quite often in the 12th house. It's the bit of you that nobody sees, and maybe even you don't see. You just don't see it. But like the second house, it nudges along at the helm, which is the first house, right? That's what you can see. This is how you do things. This is how you go about. And so I just want to throw it in for the Aquarius ascendants who are watching this. Like, I don't think that you should expect to be thrown into utter mental turmoil such as you may have experienced over the course of the last 16 years, give or take, at various points. I think it's more, as I've said, it's about those limitations of self dissolving. The recognition that those were self-imposed and we didn't fucking know. We had no idea. And in the space now that you can breathe in the 12th house, in your deep subconscious, in all of the bits of you that can't see, there's something emerging. And it really is beautiful. So vulnerable, so authentic, so real, and so unafraid. That message is not for all of you. You need to look at your own birth charts and see, you know, where Aquarius rules and what you've got in it. I'm going to shuffle the cards. But ascendant or no, I think that all of you can expect that sense of a complete rebirth, a complete rejuvenation. The air just feels a bit cleaner. Your processes feel a bit smoother, mental processes. Your emotional processes are given room to breathe. And they're showing you things that you did not expect to see at all. And I don't feel like any of the slapped face kind of energy about this is horrible revelations. It's more like the, oh my god, I've been doing a lot of this to myself and I had no idea. I mean, quite often I would go as far as to say, almost universally, the things that we reject the hardest are the things that we actually crave. But for some reason or another, we've bound them up with such an intense sense of shame that we hide them away. I've spoken at length about the difficult relationship that I have with my mother, and the issues that it caused, being a very gregarious, very extrovert, I only realised that a couple of years ago, very extrovert, opinionated fire sign. Hello world, I'm here. To someone who was uniquely unequipped to deal with that kind of energy, and the best thing that she knew how to do was to tell me to be small, and she didn't do it nicely. And so being seen has been a problem for me my entire life. It's been a cycle. It's been part of a cycle that's repeated over and over again. Like, don't see me, don't pay attention to me, I'm not drawing attention to myself, because if I draw attention to myself, my mother won't like that, and that's the thing, right? To going, actually, do you know what? All those relationships that I had, where I felt like I was unseen, it was because that's what I allowed, that's what I asked for, and that's what I got. And I never really wanted that. I just rejected the thought of it, because deep down I had internalized that as some sort of threat that made me less than. That's the sting of the slap, Aquarius. But what's rushing in is more than just a healing balm. It's more than just, you know, a little bit of cream rubbed on the site of the slab. It's like, it's a true release. It's a true letting go. Suddenly the world seems a little bit more sparkly because you can see it properly. It's not running through filters that are telling it to dull down, separate, detach, do not engage, you know? You lose nothing from it and you gain everything. Sorry, I've got a kind of like weird localized goosebumps has just happened on one patch of my head just there. I don't know if there's any kind of spiritual correspondence with this part of the head, but that's what was tingling right there. Anyway, let's get my rubbery face off the screen and have a look instead at what it is that you need to know about September. Tell me about September for Aquarius, please. Does Aquarius need to know about the month of September? Whoa. Wow. We've got the Page of Cups and we've got the Sun. Talking about being seen and being in the middle of things and whatnot. We have the World. Card of Saturn in the Major Arcana. But it also depicts the 4 fixed signs. We've got, you know, we don't actually see them here, but they're associated with the 4 fixed signs. So Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius and Leo. We have 2 of Swords, 2 of Cups. I mean, this is huge. This is huge. Empress. There she is again. Sorry about the noise of the dogs. I always happening. They're just having a scrap literally right outside the door because they're all enormous. It's noisy. Anyway, Queen of Swords right in the centre. Eight of Wands. Oh, let's have a look. 6 of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. More Leo down there. Whoa. We have 4 of Swords, the Devil and the 6 of Pentacles. Right there. Last card for Aquarius, please. What does Aquarius need to know? Three of Swords sideways. 4 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. This feels like the last act in a story. Just covering up a little bit of boobage there. The last act of a story that's been playing out for a very long time for you, Aquarius. And, you know, I think all of the fixed signs are very good at solution-based thinking. It's kind of what we're built for. But one of the downsides of that is that we always assume that we know everything, that we are right, and that everybody else is kind of stupid, right? Kind of think it nicer than that. It's generally not that we think everybody else is stupid, but we don't think that anybody else could hold the answer if we haven't thought about it. But it's like today. I was doing some work here, not recording. I was putting together a workshop that I'm doing for the UK Tarot Conference. And I came across a page of something while I was looking for some statistics that I know I visited last year. I know I did. I recognised the page, I knew the website, and I read through it. And everything was exactly where I thought it was. I just couldn't remember the stats, so I confirmed the stats. And then there was a whole section that was in between sets of stats, right? That I know that I've read before. I recognised it as soon as I saw it. But I remember reading it and it not going any deeper than my eyeballs. Like, it literally didn't hit my brain. And then I kept going. Today, when I looked at it, I was like, oh my fucking God. And that changed everything. Because I've had a super productive day. It's almost like I've been having like one thing after another dropping into my head. All off the back of this. It's like I wasn't ready to hear it. I wasn't ready to recognise it for as important as it was. It's kind of like words on a page, yes, and generally speaking, I'm pretty good at taking those things in. But for whatever reason, the thought stopped. There was no thought. The thought did not engage with what I was reading until today. And today is the right time for me to see that. It's a similar sort of thing with you here, Aquarius. It's like, what I'm not saying is that you've been wrong about anything. And please don't misunderstand me. It's like a spotlight shining on where you've been a bit rigid or a bit focused on something else. So the information's been there and it's kind of gone past. But we didn't pluck it from where it was and tie it to something that we already knew, right? And create that new connection that changes everything, that kind of blasts everything apart. I maintain quite strongly that what's opening up is a much softer part of you. But I want to come back to a card that actually isn't on the table and I didn't really engage with as much as I feel like I should have done in the YouTube reading. And that was the High Priestess. Now, you know, I spoke about the fact that she's Pisces and I spoke about the association with Saturn and whatnot. But there's a really important part of the High Priestess that I feel is beginning to operate here that I didn't mention, and that is the ability to be able to know intuitively anything. It's a card of being a wide open channel. Now you can take from that word what you want. It's going to mean different things for different people. I mean, in some cases it's simply just, for some people, you know, the recognition that when you get a nudge, you know, a little movement in your stomach, it's pushing you a particular way. It could be as simple as that. For others of you, I think it could be heralding the onset of something much more profound in terms of your spiritual engagement with the world. I've often said that emotions, in my opinion, emotions and intuition are not the same thing. Right? So when people say, oh, you know, I felt this and I was very frightened and my intuition was, I was like, that's probably not intuition. Okay? Intuition has a certain neutrality to it, I think. It's simply knowing. Now, whether or not you have a massive emotional reaction to it or not is a question of how well you master your own emotions, and for a lot of people that's not very well, and for some people that means that one ends up aping the other, as in emotions end up aping intuition, and they're not the same. But they do run parallel. And I think it's very difficult to be properly intuitive if your emotions are not mastered, if they're not free-flowing and non-defining of self and of experience or anything. Because more often than not then we'll end up kind of, you know, trebucheting our way into a really fearful situation if the emotions are overwhelming and all that sort of thing. So bearing in mind that intuition, in my opinion, and emotions run parallel like this, one can inform the other, one can be in dialogue with the other. But if your emotions are not free-flowing and mastered and non-defining of self or circumstances or whatever, what it does is it creates this kind of static around it. It creates this white noise, and no matter how hard you try, you can't really tune into it. It's like a radio station that's kind of off. You know, it's not, the dial's not where it should be. And so you might hear a word here and there, but mostly it's just got a light, you know, that kind of thing. That's a Twin Peaks reference, by the way. So if you are someone who works purely on logic and who is, you know, perhaps much more referential about evidence-based anything than intuitive propositions, because you've mistaken intuition for being this weirdly emotional thing that other people do, then you haven't been getting the full story. And that's the thing that's changing, because the emotions are being let out. There's something softer and more emotional and all that kind of thing that's being allowed to move, but it's not sitting there and being super emotional. It's being like, oh, thank God for that, I was trapped and now I can move, right? Now I'm flowing. And you don't have to define yourself by your emotional state or lack thereof. You know, it's just a part of you. It's embracing a part of you, it's integrating a part of you, and that's incredibly important. But it's moving on, because it's not you. It's very transitory. The resistance of these things can be very static. So now these emotions are moving, whether they've been repressed or ignored, or whether it's just something that you haven't really enjoyed kind of being anywhere near. Now they're moving, and you understand that they don't define you or your situation or anything. It's like the dial on the intuition is being turned up to 11. The dial on the knowing is being turned up to 11. I do think for all of you that this is a significant step forward in getting the frequency bang on. All of it. It's the last push. It's perhaps what, you know, whatever house Capricorn rules in your chart, everything that you've undergone in the last 16 years has been pushing you to this moment where you can actually hear for the first time. And what can you hear? That you want to be accepted, that you want to be connected, that you want to be intimate with other people or the universe or your higher self. You know, when we talk about the illusion of separation and how, you know, really everything is all one and all that kind of thing, but really only by our separated states are we able to come here and do our work. Because if we walked around going, well, everything's an illusion and we all are one and all that kind of thing, well, then somebody else is going to pick up the slack somewhere, right? Because what somebody else is doing is what you're doing. Whilst it is true that we're points of attention in an infinite awareness, the awareness being the we, and the completeness and the oneness and all that kind of thing, we're separated points of attention for a reason. Now, the question of the extent to which it has been taken a little too far is possibly mostly what is going on here. And for a sign that represents or a planet in your sign that represents the shifting of a generation, I think it's fascinating that this is happening, this is dissolving, this is melting away right now in preparation for that ingress and that remaining in that sign for the next 20 years. Can you sort of see what I'm saying here, Aquarius? It's like we need Aquarius to lead the way with the right aspects of Aquarius, not the shadowy shit. And this is true for any sign. I'm not singling out Aquarius for this. We want the best expression of that energy that it can possibly be mustered out there. And in some ways, that's kind of calling Aquarius into the trenches. Or into the war room, maybe. That's probably the better way to put it. Page of Cups and the Sun. New emotional exploration of self, one's environment, one's relationships. It's like there's a whole new element at your disposal here that is asking to be used. Not simply because you will lead a more emotionally fulfilling life if your emotions are allowed to play a part in it, but there is a bigger thing at play here. Like you are a cog in a very big machine, just as we all are. We're all playing our part. We're all here to do something. We're all here to revolve in a particular way. And some of us are very small cogs, and others are very large cogs. But you take one of those cogs out of this infinitesimally huge machine, and that machine's going to stop working. Everything is needed. Everyone is needed. Every single cog is needed. And we all need to show up in the fullness of who we are, not in a stripped down version of who we are. And so leaning into those bigger, lighter expressions of our energy, all of us, whatever sign we are, is really important. And we have to be prepared to do that. Like we need to voluntarily be doing that. The Sun card is all about consciousness and mindfulness and consciously doing something, but it's also about fun and happiness and joy and lightness, innocence and vulnerability. Things that may not feel as comfortable to you. You know, at the point where the Sun is in Aquarius, it's furthest away from its home. Its home, obviously, being in the sign of Leo. Its power is a little diminished compared to when it's in its home or in its exaltation in the sign of Aries. And sometimes it's very dismissive to be, it's very easy to be dismissive of the benefits that come from the Sun when the Sun seems so weak in its position. And in some ways here I'm feeling quite strongly, certainly in terms of the collective and the cog in the machine aspect of what it is that you do, you are becoming an amplifier. You know, rather than the sign of Aquarius representing as maybe deep space or dead space or something, it's like, well, what if we put up something, right? Catch that light and magnify it and amplify it. What if we could say we too wish to be connected? I always think it's really interesting that, you know, we think about the Sun in terms of being the Sun. Well, it is the Sun in our solar system, right? But it's not the only Sun. There are many suns. And what is a sun? It's a star. And Leo and Aquarius are much more similar than they often think that they are. And what's changing for you, I think, is a willingness to accept being part of something bigger than yourself. It's wanting to feel that warm embrace of perhaps, you know, community. For some of you, it might well just be with recognition of the fact that there are certain events in your life that kind of fuck things up for you a little bit, or fucked you up maybe. And like I said, it could represent some of you being like, I think I need to go to therapy. I've just noticed. You know, maybe you've noticed that you've got maladaptive coping mechanisms and you're like, well, shit, I should probably go sort that out. It could be simply that kind of revelation. But there's a sense of you wanting to draw closer to others. Perhaps instead of being a cold, distant star, actually being a sun, which is simply a subset of star, or something that you inherently are, but a version of you that you have rejected. We've got the World card here, and that's important on lots of levels. It's important because it can quite simply represent the world, the collective humanity. And we're going through somewhat of a compression. Well, I mean, it started a little while ago, maybe started in 2020, right? But it's escalating from here. I'm not really going to feel ourselves properly thrown into it, I think, until the turn of the year. But it is coming. And it's very important in that situation to do exactly as being done here. Like, dance on the body of your own ignorance and level up. And that's true for all of us. The World card is a graduation, right? There's an expansive consciousness here that we are trying to develop. We're raising the bar on the collective unconscious. I've been talking about this for years. We're all being asked to level up in our own ways. We've all been given our particular issues to deal with, and there is not one of us on planet Earth that does not have something to work on, or we simply would not be here. And that goes for the fixed signs as much as anyone else. And it represents an end. It represents an end of a cycle, your personal cycle, yes, but also a cycle within which the collective has been engaged for the longest time. Well, I don't know. I can't really put a time frame on it. You know, whether you think we're descending into the Kali Yuga or whether you think we're emerging out of it. Either way, there's a sense that what was is no more. And that goes as much for us and the burdens that we have carried and the ways that we have limited ourselves and obstructed ourselves. Like, we're moving beyond, all of us. We're all calling time on a particular way of showing up in the world, embracing instead what we really are at our core. And what we are at our core has to be much more complete than it has been for the last few decades. So what we have here, between the Two of Swords and the Two of Cups, is a recognition of what you did not see about yourself. I often describe the Two of Swords as being the thing that we don't know that we don't know. And there are plenty of those things out there for all of us. The things that we don't see, that we don't see. Particularly around togetherness, compassion, I was going to say. Well, that's an interesting one. Let's throw that in there. Compassion, connection, intimacy, connecting through a heart space rather than purely a head space, with all of the issues that that head space can bring. Like I said, it's about fundamental intimacy, but it doesn't need to be between you and, you know, a potential partner or a spouse or a, you know, whatever. It can be between you and every single person that you meet. There's a little bit of something that you can give to them. There's a little bit of yourself that you can show to them. And it feels to me like this would have been incomprehensible to you 6 months ago, but now you get it because you're here. You're seeing what you did not see. The Four of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck is showing us that there is something here that needs to be released. There's something to be let go of. There's something that has been really quite fundamental to our our existence up until this point, and it simply does not serve anymore. It's interesting that it's a Capricorn card. It's actually Sun in Capricorn. Capricorn representing everything that Aquarius does not. So rules and hierarchy and structure, and the status of wherever it is that you sit in the hierarchy. When Aquarius is not interested in any of that. Aquarius wants to burst that open, break it down. Aquarius wants a decentralized approach to everything, a more egalitarian approach to everything. But I wonder if what you're really craving at the centre of that is that connection between you and someone else, or you and many other people. I said in the YouTube reading that I felt like you were achieving or searching for a sense of purpose that has hitherto eluded to you. I mean, like I said, at its worst, it may have been showing up in your life as a kind of nihilistic approach to stuff. And what's becoming clear over September is the fact that just doesn't really work. And it doesn't really work because it's not truly how you feel. But you needed to break through some really big barriers to that, or maybe have the energy of Pisces dissolving those barriers for you to be able to see it. Now, I think this row here is fascinating, right? Genuinely, I can't come up with a better word than fascinating or interesting, because I am both fascinated and interested every time I use the fucking phrase. Maybe some vocabulary expansion is in order, right? But we'll just insert words of your preference that mean the same thing. Because we have the Empress, Taurus energy. We have Libra in the Queen of Swords. And we have Mercury in Sagittarius there with the Eight of Wands. Now, if we just jump to the Eight of Wands for a second. I love this card because none of the usual meanings of this card apply at all when this one shows up, right? So usual meanings are, swift incoming communication, acceleration of events, amplification of energies, these sorts of things, right? For me, it is simply about getting out of the hole that we did not realize that we were in, that we did not realize that we had put ourselves in. It's like we have no sense of how deep we are until we emerge. We break the surface and we look down and we're like, wow, that was fucking miles away that we were there. But at the same time, I can see that message actually coming through. High Priestess-like. It's not coming by way of a letter, it's not coming by way of an email, it's coming by way of communication between you and the universe, because you just suddenly fucking opened yourself up in a way that the universe was hoping for, and now is being delivered. And then we've got these two women. We've got the Queen of Swords, who is, let's not forget, an aspect of the Empress. The Empress is all of the queens mixed together in one archetype. But she's almost playing a secondary role to the presence of the Queen of Swords, because the Queen of Swords is all about how you process information, how you make sense of what you think. Now, generally speaking, the Queen of Swords has to put her emotions to one side while she is considering the facts of the matter. But it looks to me here, and I'll show you, like the Queen of Swords has just suddenly realised that her heart is in a cage. She's looking down, there's the heart at the bottom, you can see it, right? And she's like, fuck, I need to let this out. I at least need to open the door on the cage so the heart can go out if it wants to. I don't know, that's my idea of what a, sentient heart that could move under its own steam. That's the noise that it would make. Probably wouldn't though, it'd be like that, the heart on the chair. The beginning of the Nine Inch Nails song, Closer. Dum, dum, I don't know, I feel like it's in a bit more of a hurry to get out of the cage than like that. The Empress is playing a secondary role because on her lap this little white thing here. It's a broken egg. Do you remember how we saw in the Seven of Swords the egg in the hand of the man, and he was looking really shocked? It's like, holy shit, look at all this potential that exists here. Now I've been brave enough to take the leap, take the risk, and look at it. There's the broken egg. Whatever that egg contained, whatever potential that egg contained, has been released. And the Empress, speaks all about fertility and abundance and the creative act. And what's being created here is you, Aquarius, because you are being returned to you in your whole form. And she's looking at the Queen of Swords because she's like, oh, cat's out of the bag. Here's loads of you that you didn't know existed. Here's the opportunity to process a whole new set of input. And the Queen of Swords is like, holy shit, my heart's been in a cage this whole time. I put the heart in the cage some time ago. And now I have to make sense of all of this new information. Coming back up to the surface. We have the Six of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. The Six of Wands is Jupiter in Leo. And again, I think that there is a lot here that you seem to be taking from the sign of Leo, or allowing yourself to be lit up by, because there's an amplification here. It's almost like this dialogue that's going on between you and Leo is like, Leo will teach you how to shine, right? Leo will teach you how to be warm. Leo will teach you how to connect. And you in turn then can express the highest version of Aquarian ideals that it's possible for you to do in such a way as everybody else is able to see them. Because that sun's got its extra energy, right? It's had that extra bump of stuff, and we got the Page of Pentacles there. And for me, Page of Pentacles often talks about the discovery of value. We saw that Queen of Pentacles knocking around in the YouTube reading, right? It's that first spot of, holy shit, this is important. Holy shit, this is a necessary thing. This holds value. I need to get this to the Queen as quickly as possible. It's a point of initiation, but it's taking something that you already have and it's expanding it, it's amplifying it, or it's taking on it on a new route. There's something novel about the experience of this, and it's not just in the witnessing of what has value. In your case, simply you. The Six of Wands is about victory, it's about success, but it always has that conspicuous public aspect to it. Showing who you are, being unafraid, Leo, to be authentic, super Leo, and then add your stuff on top. Take it out, right? Take it out to the furthest reaches of fucking space where it didn't have a hope in hell of surviving. Amplifying it, adding your message to the light. We've got the Four of Swords, the Devil, Capricorn, and the Six of Pentacles here. The Devil energy really does feel it's like fear. Well, it's not like fear, it is fear. It's the fear of wanting to be involved, wanting to be wanted, wanting to connect, wanting to be a part of something, when so much of what you feel your identity has been based on has been that separation. Don't even want to sit with you. I'm doing something cool and hip over here. I think we're coming to a point in time, Aquarius, and I really cannot emphasize this enough, where we need to try and take as many with us as possible. We are occupying the liminal space between paradigms, right? And we have been doing since 2020. This was really why everything's felt so fucking surreal for such a long time. And yes, we've had Saturn in Pisces, which is a kind of odd combination, and that's been pulling things down right, left and centre. But we've also had Neptune in Pisces, and it's sitting at the 29th degree now, so I mean, that's surreal as fuck. Liminal as fuck. And the compression starts very soon. Very soon. And it's not a question of exactly what you do here. I mean, ultimately, in 100 years' time, you know, most of us will be dead and nobody will probably remember who we are. Individually. But collectively, in terms of contribution to the collective unconscious, there's a starring role for Aquarius to play here in drawing everyone together and taking us to the future by way of what you allowed to happen within you. Like I said, I cannot underestimate the level of rebirth that's going on here. Aquarius, it's fucking huge. In the Four of Swords, we're being lifted away from the things that frighten us, lifted away from you know, what you've sought to avoid for such a long time, which is this part of you, bringing it back in for consideration. We've got another moon card down here, moon in Taurus. It's allowing your emotions to become a fixed part of you, in so much as you accept them being part of you. Because emotions are transitory and they don't stick around, and that's why they don't defend us, define us, and all that sort of stuff, right? But you got to let them in. It's integration. It's pure integration. Of the most surprising kind, I would say. And we finish up here with this Three of Swords. Now, it's on the turn. It's a Saturn card, interestingly enough. The first step in healing properly is accepting that there's something that needs healing. If you don't accept it, if you push it away, if you don't allow it to be part of your life, then it stays there permanently as something that's never been accepted, never been, you know, brought in, never integrated, never given the opportunity to heal. You know, I've often said, like, the things about our personality that we're most proud of are generally the things that we are mistaken about. For me, it was my psychopathic independence. That's what an ex said to me once. I took it as a compliment at the time, but it really wasn't a compliment, and I was wrong to take it as a compliment. Not because that's not how he meant it, but because what it showed about my mindset. Wasn't good at playing with others, wasn't good at boundaries, wasn't good about any of the things of, like, managing emotions. You know, it wasn't good at interdependence. Because my life experiences have shown me that there was always a fucking cost to pay somewhere down the line, and invariably the cost massively outweighed the benefit. So much has changed, though. We have to let go of those old narratives. And maybe for you, you know, the thing that you are most proud of is the fact that you don't let your emotions get in the way. But there's a difference between mastering your emotions and pretending they don't exist. There's a difference between having, you know, a social group and having people that you can really be there for fully, and vice versa. Allow people to be there for you. please don't think for 1 second that by the time you come out of September, that's it, you're perfectly healed and everything. I mean, the fact that the Three of Swords is on its side is saying that that is not true. But a major hurdle has been overcome in simply accepting that you're ready to start opening yourself up. And that might be a little bit scary, but like letting out what is right at the heart of you, instead of feigning the fact that you don't care whether anybody sees it or not. I would say the only difference really in terms of that visibility thing that separates Leo and Aquarius is that deep down, well, not so deep down, right, just below the surface, Leo hates to be ignored, is desperate to be seen, always. That's not in a kind of attention seeking way, but just like, see me as I am. But on the surface, it's the thing that connects Leo and Aquarius. Like, both draw attention to ourselves. Leo wants to be in the middle of everything. Aquarius draws attention to themselves by walking away and saying, I'm not going to be a part of this. But you want to be a part of this, and you need to be a part of this, because you're the one who can take this into the galaxies. Do you know, like, right out there, you're the one who can project on a galactic scale. But the emotions have to be involved, and that means any kind of resistance around the feeling of it, the expression of it, whatever, like this is what is melting away, this is what is dissolving this month. And there's something so much powerful in all of us moving together than you going it alone, because the rest of the zodiac having your back, because they're coming out with you, because you're projecting this out on a galactic scale. Something really big is happening. And whilst it might be expressing itself in the macrocosm of your life right now, like the effect of this is huge. It's really quite enormous. I think by the end of September you'll be showing up as a full King of Swords. We haven't seen it in the cards, but we've seen the stuff that's leading up to it. We've seen the Page of Swords, we've seen the Queen of Swords. There's a lot of going backwards and forwards over the information. But then there's the Star. We saw that in the YouTube reading, that emergence of you being like, alright, I'm here, I'm naked, I'm vulnerable, but I've got a shitload to share with you all. And I'm ready to start amplifying out. Well, fucking hell. Page of Swords underneath there. There's no way that a sign goes through this level of death and rebirth in 1 month. This recognition of separation and the pulling together of integration without something really fucking huge following it. And I don't know if that's going to be October or November for you, or whether it's going to be towards the end of the year, but like everything is tying up now on the old story. And what comes next is kind of in your wheelhouse, right? Because it's all about the future, and it's about the kind of bursting open or knocking down all of the old ways of doing things, structure, hierarchy, all that kind of thing. Ready for the innovation, but you need to do it with a full deck of cards, right? Not just the swords cards. That's what this whole reading's talking about here. It's preparing you to prepare us. Right. I've been blathering on for ages, so I'm going to go away now. But this is big. It's really big. I've not got a fucking clue what to call this reading. Okay. Take care, and I'll see you soon.